Construction Big Breakfast, where we give you a hearty serving of insider tips and business strategies to help fuel your day so you can thrive in the construction industry. Now, here are your hosts, Tip Top Tim Fitch and Brendan Morahan.
Regular listeners will know that we normally start our podcast by telling you what we had for breakfast. But before we do that, and this time, we would just like to extend our sympathy and solidarity with all those affected by the coronavirus. This is a difficult period for families and business, and we would just like to wish you well in these uncertain times.
Okay, and welcome to the very first Construction Big Breakfast podcast in the new era. So you'll notice that rather than just having a single shot with myself and my guests or other colleagues, we're doing this via Microsoft Teams, which we're going to talk about quite a lot this morning. But first of all, as we normally do, I've got to ask my fellow guests what they had for breakfast. So Cameron, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Well, good morning, Tim. I had a lovely cup of tea and as per usual, I had a banana. Nothing else. I'm going to have a lunch later on, so I've kept it nice and light.
Brendan?
And for me, good morning, everyone. Great to see you all virtually. Once again, I hope Flat Heavens are listening. I keep on mentioning you, Flat Heavens, but I haven't had the delivery yet. I had their lovely porridge with mixed up with raisins and banana, and as always, the obligatory cups of coffee. So it's nice to have it in a more relaxed environment instead of rushing out to catch the train. So I suppose that's one of the benefits of the situation we're in, isn't it?
Sarah, come on, what did you have?
I am having coffee this morning. So I'll have
like the mug, Sarah.
I know, I'm not messing around. It's the size of my head.
Well, of course, you'll want to know what I've had. And as usual, I've trumped all the other guests because a couple of days ago, I found in the bottom of the freezer, when we were doing an audit of all the food we had, a frozen packet of black pudding, which I've now defrosted. And this morning, I had 2 slices of black pudding with some bubble and squeak. So that was tremendous and set me up for the day. So
friends, what's bubble and squeak?
So bubble and squeak is for our multicultural friends who haven't been born and bred in the British Isles. Bubble and squeak is leftover mashed potato and usually cabbage, and it was cabbage today, mixed up, and then you fry it. So it's a very traditional thing you find in traditional British cafes, particularly, if you ask for a full English, that's often an option to have. It's very, very popular in the construction industry, which is where I grew to love it when I actually went on building sites rather than just talking about it. Anyway, welcome everybody. So today we're in 4 different locations. So I'm at home in my little home office out in West London in Rickmansworth. Where are you, Cameron?
Yeah, I am also in my little home office here near Watford.
Brendan?
And I'm in Harrow. And you, Sarah?
I'm in St. Catherine's Docks.
Very nice.
Trumped us all.
At my house.
She's got
one of our early developments, Sarah, as I've told you before. The start of the renaissance of the Docklands.
Yes, you did.
Anyway, so if you've been following what we do on social media, we haven't been shy, as usual, in letting you know what we've been doing on LinkedIn and Facebook. Every morning, we sort of transitioned Invennt from the office environment on Tuesday following Boris Johnson's advice. And so from, I think, Wednesday morning, we have been operating fully remotely. And one of the little innovations we came up with has been to have what we call the Invennt virtual breakfast meeting at 8 o'clock each day with the whole team using it dials in to a Microsoft Teams meeting, which looks exactly like this. every morning we have a chat for half an hour, which is to just set the day up, keep morale up, find out what everyone's had for breakfast, and have a little find out what people are doing that day. And I'll let Brendan and Cameron come in on that. Cameron, you had some interesting ideas about how we were in the fortunate position that we had all the technology available, although it wasn't. We never envisaged this, did we?
Yeah. No, you're right. It's we had a chat earlier on. It's just coming back on your point about I was in the office. Brendan and I were in there on Tuesday, just packing everything away, making sure that everything was locked up, and it was quite a surreal experience. But to move into this new virtual world, we were talking earlier about the technology, the use of technology. Now, we actually moved over to Microsoft Teams probably about a year ago, and the drive for that is not from us. Truth be told, it's from our staff. We've got a very diverse number of staff within the organisation, and they've helped us to get to this point. And I'm amazed at how easy the transition has been from working in the office to working at home, and particularly staying connected. And for me, the Invennt breakfast, it's always a great laugh just to see what you're having for breakfast, Tim, because it's always very interesting and very different from the rest of us. But to be able to connect in the morning, get the day going via the video, we can see everyone. Not everyone has the luxury of being at home with their family. We have a number of overseas people working for us. Their families are abroad, and it's great for us all to connect with each other on that daily basis and just have a bit of a conversation in the morning, just to get the day going.
Yeah, that was the intention of it. And funny enough, I think we're communicating more now, not just at breakfast time, but during the day, than we do when we're in the office. Or is it just me? I don't know. I certainly get the sense that there's much more literally face-to-face, albeit virtually, conversations going on, either one-on-ones or little groups. As I'm sure our listeners know, we've got one of our team members is in Toronto, and we're having more conversations with Couture, both myself and Ben, every day now, whereas before it was less frequently. And amazingly, I think we're having almost as much, if not more, interaction with our clients, because, they're in the same boat as us. They're sat at home and talking to people who are in the same situation is actually comforting, is maybe not quite the right word, but there is some support there now, whereas before you could always have a bit of a barrier because you're always too busy to speak to somebody. It's very strange times, but at the moment it doesn't actually feel bad. Not for me. It's different. It is very different, and this week has gone very fast. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Brendan.
I think the big issue for me, I endorse everything that's been said so far, and this social interaction more than ever is going to be so important. I think the developing learning for me is to make sure that we don't allow the technology to force what we do. We've got to ensure that technology is supporting what we do. So you were, Tim, referring to the difference you found between being in the office and not being in the office. I view it slightly differently in that I think we always did have very good interaction in the office. What we've got to do is make sure that interaction isn't impeded because of these constraints now, and that we all feel enabled just to pick up the phone or go on a Teams meeting or a chat or whatever in the normal way. What we've got to be careful of is that we don't just become too institutionalized, that there are times in the day where we have to have a chat meeting. I think the morning meetings have proven to be essential. I think important as employers to make sure that our team are okay, but they're important as a team, that we're interacting with each other and looking out for each other. But it's how we can make sure that we keep that constant and dynamic interaction going the whole time. And, you know, inevitably, and I particularly fear for next week when the schools are off, it's the infrastructure in the country that's going to be really challenged now as to how dynamic we will be able to be on this. You know, we've had some minor experiences on the Teams meetings we've had already where the audio may not be as strong as we'd like it to be. The video quality isn't quite as good as it should be. And yet, despite that, there are many other means of still communicating with each other. So we've got to make sure that we don't let one form of technology dominate. But like you, Tim, I've been aware of it. I haven't been as embracing of it as others have been. And I've pleasantly surprised myself how quickly you can pick up on it and use it. And I've extended it even into my family. I've got an elderly mother. We bought her a tablet. Later today, I'll be going through the induction process. I'm not looking forward to that, but it's another opportunity to start engaging in a different way with each other. So it's good. And from an old lag like me, it's learning something new, which is great, which is what this business has always been about, is developing yourself as well as others.
It is. And one of the things for me, Brendan, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not perfect. And some of the joys are, you know, people dipping in and dipping out and having to come back in, and you know, it's part of it. And I think if don't get frustrated by it, don't get frustrated by the dips in technology, the gaps. You know, it's part of it, and we have to embrace it. And if we get frustrated, you know, who knows how long we're going to have to be doing this. That will very quickly, you know, eat into the enjoyable parts of it. And actually, for me, it's more enjoyable than I thought it would be. It's quite surprising, and it's great to be able to see everybody. It's great to be able to connect with everybody. And particularly for us members of staff, I agree with you, Tim. I think we are communicating more, but we're also talking to people more. There is less emails flying around. I'm getting emails that are relevant, important, urgent, and the more mundane emails that I used to get, I'm actually getting a phone call now. So that's a slight shift that I've noticed.
Sarah, you're a relative expert in this. What change, if at all, have you noticed?
Well, I've noticed that Tim was mentioning that it's creating more communication, and I do have to agree with that in the sense that it's been really nice as somebody whose family is not in the UK. So my family's back in Canada, and then being able to going into the office every day is a really great thing, because you have that sense of, you know, community and camaraderie. And how we've implemented the daily meetings has been really fantastic for myself, and I know several other people on the team, because it keeps the mental health up as well, which is something that's really important in such a time where there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of stress that people could be feeling, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of that as well. So I've noticed that switching slowly things over towards more of a digital aspect, where we've had a meeting yesterday with another member from another company, and we're going to actually help them to implement some webinars and tactics that are going to accelerate their business and connect with their members, because there is some fear going on with companies thinking that they're going to lose memberships, or because they're not able to have networking events. But just being able to have an open mind about how you can still network via a virtual conference is something that can be really beneficial. So I'm looking forward to helping other clients and other companies to see the benefits of this and help them to implement it as well too, if it's not something that they've done before.
No, I think you're right. And of course, I'm speaking as someone who's I wouldn't say I'm afraid of technology, but I'm not an early adopter. No way. And I'm really echoing what Brendan and Cameron said, that we're in this situation now where, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. We almost seamlessly, all right, I'm now adopting Teams working, and frankly, you feel a bit foolish that for 10 minutes puzzling out what you have to do, you've moved forward so that you can continue operating in a totally different way than we did a week or so ago. Now, for us, particularly for me, I mean, this podcast is called the Construction Big Breakfast. We use face-to-face breakfasts as part of the way we run our business, particularly with clients and prospective clients. And we've had no choice but to innovate around that, and that's where the IVB, the Invennt virtual breakfast, came from. It was a necessity, and we have started getting those booked in, because obviously, very sadly, it's impossible to do the breakfast meetings in a restaurant now. Unfortunately, most of them are closed, and I'm sure it's not safe to do it. But we are getting people to say yes to Invennt virtual breakfast, and of course now, when they were perhaps booked for a month or so in advance, they now want to do them next week. So we'll see how they go. They're going to start with our clients next week, but we've also today I've got several sales meetings over Teams with prospective clients, both in the UK and Canada. So we'll see how today goes, but I know the technology will work, and it's a question really how quickly the person on the other end gets used to this technology. That's the sort of unknown at the moment, but they should be able to get on with it.
I mean, just on that, Tim, we've had a number of online meetings and workshops with our clients this week, and in the main, they've been as fast at adopting as we have, which is great. And again, with the ability to connect, most of the work that we do involves transfer of information. That information can be transferred digitally, and we can work on that and still deliver for our customers.
I think
I know.
Very
Sorry,
valuable for Microsoft Teams, because you don't need to have a license for it. So if you're, a client of ours or somebody that we're looking to meet with, you don't need to have the license yourself. You're able to join and connect, and it's all in a secured environment. So that's something very positive as well, too.
Yeah. I think the other advantage I've seen of this situation is, particularly the more enlightened clients that I've been speaking with recently, we've been in discussion with them over many months now about how they can improve their business and try and take a longer term view of it. And with the best will in the world, they've been too busy with the day job. I think this is now forcing us all to think a little bit more long term and think about their business and the sustainability of their business. And I think there is the opportunity for us all to look at what is really important as opposed to the mundane. I mean, you're referring to the emails, for example, that are coming through. Well, a lot of them don't add any value. So how can we all as businesses make sure that we don't just stockpile a lot of stuff for a relative quiet time to deal with? Why don't we eradicate all that stuff in the first place so that we just focus on the really efficient and effective stuff? And, as I say, some of the conversations I've had with clients are now saying, well, look, we've got some dwell time. We do need now to start taking some medicine and thinking about how we prepare our business, not only to get through this, but to be truly sustainable in the future. And a lot of that can be done remotely, or most of it can be done remotely. Now, a lot of our clients are working on projects, and that has got to continue. And one of the things that struck me, our mantra is about creating value through construction. It will be very interesting to see over the coming days and weeks to what extent construction workers are viewed as key workers, because we have always said that we are such a major component for any functioning society. And I think times like this are going to endorse that and just prove just how important this sector is. And we've got a duty as our mission to make sure that those businesses get through this and are even stronger on the back of it. So again, I think this is another positive that is going to come out of clearly a very worrying situation.
I think there's a point well made, Brendan. when construction is the second biggest employer after healthcare, and of course lots of the work that's done is critical, isn't it? So to keep the country going. So I'm with you. I think this is a catalyst, and people need to grasp the fact that what we found is that because there's no travelling involved anymore, I'll speak personally, I've been massively more productive. And what I've had to do, where it's really changed, I used to do a lot of exercise as part of my commute. That's part of my regime to keep myself fit and healthy. So now, because I can be at my desk at 6:10 in the morning rather than walking to the station, I now take a break at lunchtime and go for a very long walk just to keep the step count up, because I can't go to the gym either. And Cameron, you made an interesting point about drinking fluids. I'm talking about
Fluids. Fluids. Not necessarily alcohol, but fluids. Yeah, we've got a fantastic coffee making machine. We at Invennt have our own coffee, which is lovely, and it's amazing what you get used to. There's always somebody in the office when you're in that environment. Right, who wants a coffee or a tea? And it's something that it just happens naturally. You've always got a cup of tea or coffee next to you. And I found that the last couple of days, having to force myself to get up and to go and get some water, get a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and keeping hydrated, because that's one of the biggest differences from the office environment is keeping hydrated. And it's amazing when you're sat in an office at home like this. I've actually got the window open here now. I have a cup of tea here, and to create that environment, when you're reading reports or you're doing work for clients, it's important to have those things around you. And it was something that struck me actually yesterday, when I thought.
And it struck me too, Cameron, how much time has been released for me now, not making you teas and coffees.
Yeah, I do miss it, Brendan. You're very good at it. But it's just the small things like that we will get used to. We'll get and it will adjust. And it's the same whether it's a cup of tea or it's the technology that we use. We will get used to it, and it will start to become a natural part of how we work, the way that we work.
And on that note, having the right supplies and equipment, and ensuring, if you're going to be working from home, as a majority of people will, especially in the coming weeks, is ensuring that you have that dedicated workspace. And I love something about our team, how we've all been sending each other photos of what we set up our offices to look like at home. So that kind of really creates a positive energy and a positive environment for yourself that keeps your spirits up as well too. So it's a great way to make sure that you're focused as well.
That's an interesting point, Sarah, because the office that I'm in is on the side of my house. It's attached to it, it's part of it, but I built it. It was built whilst I was doing my gardening leave when I left Finchley 8.5 years ago. And because at that time it was just me and Brendan, and we were working from home and all the rest of it. And of course, since we've had the office, I've hardly used it. So before I could set up on Tuesday, I had to clear out a whole load of detritus and rubbish which had accumulated. I'm very messy anyway, but it was particularly bad because it's not used. It is now, but it hadn't really been used much for the last 2 or 3 years since we've had a terrific office in London. But of course, you quickly adapt, don't you? You quickly adapt. Now, the other thing is, I'm looking out of my window. My garden, the lawn is looking excellent because, of course, rather than leave it to the weekend, I've done a bit of extra exercise when I've had a quiet period in the afternoon. I've gone and mowed it. I'm going to go and rake in some new grass seed on the bald patches I've got, because there's more time, isn't there? There's more time because you haven't got that commute, which for me takes 2.5 hours a day, typically, which is it's an interesting thing. I wonder how life will be after this crisis is. That's an interesting thing to think about. Something to think about, because I think the world has changed.
I've noticed myself, I've actually started working much earlier. So maybe 7:30, I'm able to get on the computer because I naturally get up early, whereas opposed to normally I'd start at 8:30 or 9. So yeah.
I haven't noticed that with Andy Hasty yet.
You're right. You can work. You can work flexibly. You actually find that you're right, Sarah. You turn the computer on early when you get up, have a look, and then actually I have tended to leave it on, and even at night you just pop back in and have a quick look at things and catch up. But it's not intrusive. It's in the background. It's running away with, and the fact that you can go out and you can rake the lawn and do a few other things in the day helps with just being efficient. It helps, as you said, Sarah, earlier on, with your mental health and your well-being. You get a bit of exercise as well. No cabin fever yet, but it's trying to make sure that all of those things are managed well, and making sure that you are fit and healthy, because there's no point being work environment at home and it's not a pleasant one.
Right. And I find myself working in very efficient blocks of time and then taking a break, like you're saying, and it becomes more productive because you're initiating those own flexible hours within yourself at your house. And it's been very productive. I will agree with that.
I think that's the important point that you're all saying, is that it doesn't become a 24/7 type culture. There is a risk with this, that if people don't self-discipline, and that employers are sensible about this as well, that it doesn't become something that people need to be constantly available, and that old fear of missing out, that if I'm not on, am I missing out on something that's important? So people just need to be, as I said earlier, is don't let the technology run this. Make sure that there's still people that are running businesses, running lives, and let the technology support it.
And I suppose on that note, there's a couple of things. You're quite right. I mean, people are using all the different channels to communicate with each other. I mean, the banter level on our WhatsApp group has gone up very significantly, which is, I think it is really good at keeping the morale up. Although all of these association football jokes have to be explained to me. I am trying to learn. This is the thing that's going to bounce me into understanding it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because already there's violations there, because we had agreed that WhatsApp would be purely social interaction and Teams would be professional. But I noticed a couple of violations this morning in our meeting. A lot of people getting a bit bored and coming up with all acronyms and that. So we'll have to clamp down on that, I think.
But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, we think we're going to function well all the way through the business cycle. So we're obviously continuing marketing. That's what this is. We've got sales calls booked, which are going to be done exactly like this. We've got one in about half an hour as we film this. We are running our discovery workshops, which is a key part of our process for the R&D recovery, both here and in Canada. We're doing those virtually. And of course, the other stuff, which can actually be done offline anyway, is carrying on. And don't worry, we'll be still sending out the invoices. I don't think that's going to be affected. So as far as we're concerned, we can carry on. It's not as normal, but it would be as effective. We're just going to have, obviously, the key one is there won't be any face-to-faces. It's going to be like this. But we think, hopefully this podcast is proving it, it's almost as good as actually being sat in front of somebody. And of course, you can still share a coffee.
And I think the important thing is, we don't know everything, so we've got to keep on learning. There'll be other people out there who have different experiences, better experiences. So it's really important that through this media podcast and like that, it is becoming a conversation, that other people are interacting with this, sharing their thoughts, coming up with their ideas, and giving us some feedback as to what they're seeing out there, because it's in danger of feeling trite, but this is so important that everyone does get together, as businesses and communities, to actually get through this. And not one of us has got the answer to this, because as we keep on saying, it is unprecedented. So we've got to learn together. So I really would encourage people that are watching this podcast to get involved. And if you're running podcasts, invite us to yours as well. And let's guest on each other's.
Absolutely.
Well, I think on that note, thanks to Brendan, Cameron, and Sarah, who's the director of our podcast. Might be the first time we've actually seen her in one.
Normally behind.
Yeah, she's normally behind the camera, but now she's in front of it. And I hope you've enjoyed it. This is obviously a new thing to do it this way. It's an innovation. Look out for an invite to an Invennt virtual breakfast in the coming weeks, and look forward to you seeing the next podcast, which will probably be the old format, because we had a few in the tank. Is that right, Sarah?
We did, but we're going to be releasing this one very soon.
This one's going to be first. Yeah, you'll see this one first.
Yeah.
Anyway, so goodbye. Enjoy the rest of the day. This is filmed on a Friday. Have a good weekend.
Keep safe, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
As I said at the beginning, we do recognise the importance of this situation and the impact it is having on people's lives. Now more than ever, we need to be strong together to get through this. We just want you to know that we're here, even if it is just for a chat. And if your business needs support, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to see what we can do to help.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Construction Big Breakfast. Make sure to visit our website, www.invennt.com, where you can subscribe to the Construction Big Breakfast on all platforms, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a positive rating. Or if you'd simply share it with a friend, that would help us out too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.